Well, hi there. Long time no see. It's what now, February 3rd? I don't think I've done one of these since before the holidays. So, between the holidays, I wound up with some kind of respiratory virus after we came back from the holidays, and then I was away on a conference. And now, with KCRA being an NBC station, a lot of us are busy getting ready for the Olympics, which start on Friday, and of course, Super Bowl Sunday. It's a busy time in our newsroom. But anyway, happy to be back and doing these live weather chats. I think I said this back in December. I want to revive these and make them regular. We're actually going to stick to it. Call it our belated New Year's resolution here. So it's Tuesday evening. Not a whole lot going on weather-wise, actually. Word on the street is it's just been really, really nice. We had the fog in the morning in the valley. A little bit of a nuisance for the morning commute, but it didn't hang around long, and the next couple of days it's not going to hang around long either. So it was mid-60s to around 70 degrees today in the valley and the foothills. It's going to be more of the same for the next couple of days. But I know we need the rain, we need the snow. It's been almost a month since we've had a good storm come through. I was looking back at some of the data. January 5th is the last time we had about 1/4 of an inch of rain for Sacramento and accumulating snow in the Sierra. I was just up at one of the resorts on Sunday. They got a lot of runs open, but the snow is definitely skied on. Reminds me a lot of East Coast skiing, which I grew up skiing the East. I was comfortable with that, but the resorts could use more snow. We could use more rain in the valley, but vegetation's nice and greened up. Reservoirs are in good shape. We're going to look at a bunch of different numbers here to kind of get some of the vital signs of our water year so far, where we are, and where we may be headed here over the next couple of weeks. 7-day forecast, not that interesting. Dirk and I did add in some shower chances on Monday, but that's mainly for the mountains. So we'll look beyond the 7-day, because there are some early signs that things could get a little bit more interesting. So I'm streaming right now on Facebook and YouTube, both my pages and the KCRA pages, and I'm going to do my best to monitor all of them. So I've got my Facebook page up here, KCRA Facebook page, and the YouTube channels up to my right. So I've got a short list of things that I'll go through, but here and there I'll check in on some of your questions. A lot of people chiming in on my Facebook page. Betty, or Bet, excuse me if I've mispronounced your name, Taylor, she's asking about rain in Plymouth. Yeah, Plymouth's going to see rain when everybody else sees rain, so we'll look into some of the evidence that we're seeing with that. We could use rain into the foothills. Larry, should we call it rain or a shower? Yeah, to me there's a difference. Showers are kind of hit and miss. It's not an all-day rain. Rain is widespread. Everybody gets it and it lasts for a while. And that's semantics. Depends on who you ask, but to me there's a difference between rain and showers. Vicky's asking any chance of rain in Oakdale on the 12th. It's getting a little specific, but we'll certainly look out to the 12th and see what's coming. Lots of other people just watching, checking in, and saying hi. All right, if you get specific questions, let me know. But without further ado, let's go over to the internet. We're going to start off with rain totals so far this water year. So this is the National Weather Service's website, the Sacramento office. Anybody can access this, and what we're looking at here is a chart of how precipitation has stacked up since October 1st. October 1st is the beginning of the water year. The green line and everything shaded below it, that's our rainfall accumulation this season so far. The red line is the lowest on record, and the blue line is the highest on record. This brown line, see how it's nice and smooth, that's the normal or the average as we go throughout the season. So notice that brown line through December, January, and if I were to extend this through the month of February, you would see that line continuing to slope up as we are in the wettest part of the year on average. If you follow the green line, you can see, yep, we had our first good round of rain there in mid-October, then a couple nice little storms that came through in mid-November, then it was quiet right up until the holidays. And we got a couple good storm systems around Christmas, and another couple of good ones around New Year's. So that put us well ahead of average. This was, excuse me, January 7th. So after the rain and snow had stopped, we had just over 9.5 inches of rain. The normal at that time was just shy of 7 inches of rain, so well above normal there, and we've barely had anything since. We've had 1/10 of an inch of rain over the past month in Sacramento, which isn't great this time of the year, but what's interesting here is if I pull this all the way to the end, so this is the accumulation as of today, you see that our accumulation this season, 9.67 inches, is right around still what's normal for this time of the year, just shy of 10 inches of rain. So the takeaway there, we had a really good early start to the water year, and now that things have kind of quieted down, things have kind of evened out a little bit. So, I was talking about this last week when I was on TV briefly. That early start gave us a lot of wiggle room for these dry stretches. Typical dry stretch in the winter months is 2 to 3 weeks. We're now, well, excluding what we saw last Tuesday night into Wednesday, we're now getting close to 5 weeks. So this is on the longer end. We don't like to see that. But as far as our water year rain totals go, technically we're still right around normal. That's for Sacramento. We're actually a little bit above normal in Stockton and Modesto because those places respectively were running wetter. So the valley overall is doing okay rain-wise. Even with this break, we would just like to keep it going because, of course, the later we can keep rainfall going in the valley, the longer we can stave off grass fire season in the spring. But everything's nice and green now. We don't need to worry about that yet. All right, now we're going to talk about snow. So this graph is from the folks at the Central Sierra Snow Lab. It's part of UC Berkeley. The lab site has been, I think it's going on 6 decades now. A nice little site in Soda Springs, not too far from Donner Summit off Interstate 80. They've been measuring snow for, like I said, close to 60 years. They got great records. The best records you'll find in the Sierra, actually. That's why we like using them. We like that they're sort of in our proverbial backyard. But this chart, much like what I just showed you with rainfall, is tracking how the snow season is going since the start of the water year. October 1st, the red line is what we've actually had. The dark, thin blue line in the middle, that's what they consider the median, average, kind of interchangeable here. If you were to ask a statistician, they would say no, but we can treat it as the same. The darker blue shading, that's again getting into statistics. That's the 25 percentile to 75 percentile, so a decent range of where we'd expect to be normal in a season. But just like with the rain, notice an okay start to snow season. Our first couple of storms were warm, as we would expect. Then we had really good snow just ahead of Christmas or right around Christmas, and then another really good round of snow right after New Year's. So that's really where we've had the bulk of our snow. It's just from those 2 storm systems coming through. And then, just like with the rain, obviously not much since. So, according to this, 1.22 inches of snow at the Snow Lab site since October 1st. And that puts us almost 60 inches or 5 feet short of what's normal. So while rain numbers in the lower elevations and the foothills are doing okay, snow is where we're lacking. And it's not that we haven't had the precipitation in the mountains, it's that when some of these storm systems have come through, they've been warm. So the snow level's been 7,000 feet plus. We've seen that quite a bit. So we need a colder storm to come through. All right, that was just a quick look at the rain and the snow. Pause here for just a second, see if anybody's got any specific questions. Yeah, Diana says we need some rain to clean the air. It's been getting hazy again. Air quality today was okay in the valley. There are no burn bans, at least in Sacramento County for tomorrow. Check with your local jurisdiction if you have any kind of wood burning that you need to do. That's something we'll be watching over the next couple of days. Steven says he's getting so bored of this sunny weather. I'm conflicted. As a runner and a cyclist, this weather is perfect. But as somebody who talks about the weather on the daily for a living, yeah, it's getting a little boring. I agree. Use something to shake it up a little bit. Okay. So, showed you the rain and snow numbers. It shouldn't be any surprise that based on what I showed you just for the Snow Lab site, it's been kind of the same up and down the Sierra. So this is the California Data Exchange Center, Department of Water Resources. They publish daily updates on the snowpack. Of course, they did their manual survey, what was it, the end of last week, early this week, where they actually go up, stick the snow pole in the ground. Yeah, they do that once a month to get a manual measurement. They do that at a bunch of different sites, but we have these automated sites where we can get numbers any day we want. And the green numbers that you see, that's the percent of normal snowpack for today's date. So in the North Sierra, 43% of average. Central Sierra is a little bit better, but still only halfway to what we should be by now. South Sierra, higher elevations, so those warmer storms still provided some benefit there. That's an okay number. We give that a solid C. But the Central Sierra and the North Sierra, yeah, we're hurting, and these numbers will become more important as we get deeper into February and into March. This is the percent of our peak snowpack, or average peak snowpack, so that typically peaks the first week of April. If we were to get no more snow between now and April, we would be at just a third of what we would expect. But fortunately, there's a lot of time left and hopefully room to turn things around. I want to talk about one other quick metric. We don't talk about it often because it is a little wonky, but it tells a little bit more of a complete story. So snowpack, put myself back on camera. So the snowpack number is, if we were to melt all the snow in the Sierra, how much water would we get out of it? It's the equivalent of, right now, say we have 9.6 inches of water in the snowpack. Well, that would be like saying, okay, 9 inches of rain worth of snow, if I'm saying that correctly. If that were to all melt down, that's what water managers would expect to be running off down the west slope of the Sierra. So that's snow. That's water that gets stored up there. We want it to stay stored up there into the spring so that it slowly melts off into the early summer months and we slowly top off our reservoirs. We've got a shortage of snow. We do not actually have a shortage of precipitation in the Sierra this season. One way to measure that is something called the 8 station index. You can take it kind of literally. It is an index of 8 different stations. These stations here: Mount Shasta City, Shasta Dam, Mineral, Quincy, Brush Creek, Sierraville, Blue Canyon. We know Blue Canyon well. We've done a lot of live shots there. And Pacific House. So these 8 locations, they are taking measurements of how much rain and how much snow if we were to melt it down into water. So all of those things combined. This is not just snow, this is not just rain, this is both. Right now we're at 33 inches. That's the average across those 8 stations covering much of the Central and North Sierra. This blue shaded area, that's the average. So right now, we're actually technically above average precipitation-wise for those 8 stations. It's just that more of that precipitation has come as rain rather than snow. So again, you kind of get the idea of a more complete story here. We are behind on snow, but as far as, dryness conditions, we're technically, even with this break of 4 to 5 weeks, we're not drier than average yet. We're doing okay. And in fact, our reservoirs are in pretty good shape too. I want to show you those really quickly. Just give me a second to pull those up. So these are the latest reservoir readings, again, from the Department of Water Resources. Lake Oroville is at 82% of capacity, which is 136% of normal for today's date. So above average on Oroville. We're above average on Lake Shasta, 122% of average, 80% of capacity right now. Folsom, a little over half full, but that's very normal for this time of the year. Remember, Folsom is much smaller than Oroville and Shasta. It fills up much faster. It's really snowmelt that determines the level of the water on Folsom. So water managers will be watching that carefully. New Melones, holding more water than normal. Don Pedro, more water than normal. All of these major reservoirs either at or above normal storage, which is good. So nobody's saying the D word. Nobody's saying drought. We're doing okay. This is our first season in the last 3 or 4 where we're kind of like, oh, things are slowing down. But there's a lot of time to turn things around. So our water story, yes, we've been in a long dry gap. We're still doing okay because we put a lot of water away into that savings account. Just don't want to have to dip too far into the savings. You can think of it that way. So with all of that being said, I like doing these Facebook Lives and these YouTube Lives because I only get 3 minutes on TV, if that. Can't go through all these nuances and do all the storytelling, but I can do whatever I want on the internet. So let's take a look at what could be coming. We'll start with the American model. Just make sure this is lined up so everybody can see it, myself included. Okay, so this is this coming weekend. No rain, no snow. There's going to be some clouds. There may be a little bit of a breeze, but for those that have been concerned about the air quality, I think there should be enough moving air that things improve a little bit this weekend. But again, we haven't seen anything in the unhealthy range. The air just kind of has that look to it that, not as crystal clear blue as maybe we would like. So here is next Monday, 6 days from now. This is the first day we were looking at the chance for a few showers. Sorry, it's moving around on me. Yeah, and it's not much. We've got this weak little system moving by off to our north and east. This is what this afternoon's model had. I want to show you what this morning's model had. Yeah, a little something, but not much. Other model runs have shown Monday's showers to be a little bit more impressive. We added it into the 7-day, but my message to people on TV today, if you're going to be traveling in the Sierra Monday night, Tuesday, this doesn't look like anything disruptive for now, but if that is your travel window, pay attention to this forecast, just in case things change. But this doesn't look like anything disruptive. So that's next Monday. Tuesday, dry. Next chance of a few showers is Wednesday. But again, we're not seeing that big area of rain filling in, so that would just be showers. But again, that's this afternoon's model. I want to show you what this was showing this morning because it did look different. All right, here is, this is late Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. And again, this is this morning's model run, a little bit stronger. This would be, a quick burst of some showers coming through and eventually some snow in the Sierra. I think we'd be talking inches, not feet. And in the valley, we may see something like, a 1/4 of an inch of rain out of that. A lot? No. Would it be welcome? Sure. Again, that's next Wednesday. So we'll see how that evolves. Better moisture going into Southern California there. Then as we get way out, this is Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is next Saturday, by the way. If anybody is in need of making plans, don't procrastinate on that. Valentine's Day is going to be dry, but as we get into the 16th, 17th, so this is kind of way out there when things can certainly change, that's a better storm system that comes through. But again, that was this morning's model run, this evening's model run. All right, here's Valentine's Day, dry, same idea. Okay, so that's this afternoon's run, also for the 16th. Something a little better as far as rain goes. The system's coming up from the south, so snow levels would likely still be high, but there is snow there, which is good. And then that moves along. So, same model, 2 different runs, a little bit of a difference. That's typical. But what I like about what I just showed you is that they're both showing the same idea. And there's another forecast model that we look at called the European model that's also been keying in on kind of this same idea that as we go into next week and the week after, nothing big right now, at least not for Northern California, but signs of maybe a couple little systems coming through, kind of breaking out of this ridge pattern that we've had for so long, which can provide really nice weather, but this is our time of the year where we need to be banking that rain and snow. So that's a positive sign that the second half of February could be busier, but steadily busier. We don't need to make it up all in one go, and I don't think this stretch of weather is going to make up for the dry weather that we've had for the past 4 or 5 weeks. I think that we've moved past that. Odds are that this season is probably going to finish up a little bit drier than average, but that does not put us in line for a drought. I've had conversations with people who've been here a lot longer than me, and I've realized this in my 4+ years here. It takes more than one dry season to really dig ourselves into a drought, right? Especially with our reservoirs in good shape. We're coming off of 3 pretty okay years water-wise. I mean, 1 really good year, and then a couple of okay years. So our reservoirs are in good shape. this is what the Climate Prediction Center is showing for days 6 through 10. So we're looking beyond the 7-day here, February 9th through 13th. And this is kind of keying in on the same idea with what I just showed you with the models. The deeper the green coloring, the higher the confidence they have in wetter than normal conditions. This is not a prediction of how much rain we will see, what days specifically we will see rain, just that weather is going to be wetter than normal during that 4-day stretch. So for Northern California, yeah, decent confidence that we'll get a couple systems that come through, but the focus, the storm track is really going to be focused Southern California into Southern Arizona. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Also, what I like about this is the temperature outlook. We've been running warmer than normal for the last few weeks, which is comfortable to be in, but when those storm systems come through, if you got warmer than normal conditions, well, that's really tough to get snow out of. If we get some days that are either just as cool as normal or even cooler than normal, that would be better for snow. That's encouraging to see as well. So, yes, it's been dry. It's not time to panic. I hope in my postings I share on social media, I hope I'm not implying that, ooh, we're in trouble where we're running dry. No, I'm just trying to state the facts as they are. Things get misconstrued on social media all the time. That's why we're doing this little Facebook live chat here. Let's check through some of the comments here. Diana says, rain, 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 we need the rain. Yeah, we do. And Stephen also says, running in the rain is so fun. Yeah, I do love running in the rain. I started running when I lived in Pennsylvania. I continued it when I lived in Western New York, where you pretty much had to run in the rain because it rains every couple of days there or snows. Yeah, running in the rain is fun. There's something about it that just feels playful. Larry says, yeah, now we're in fantasy land. Yeah, anytime I show you forecast model that's beyond 10 days, fantasy land, make-believe land, land of hopes and dreams, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, forecast models do pretty well within 5 to 7 days, but once you get beyond a week or so, you can glean general trends, which is what I'm trying to do for you here, but nailing down, okay, is it going to rain on Valentine's Day at my house? Yeah, we can't do that yet. We can't do that just yet. All right. Nice to see everybody chiming in. Checking in on the KCRA Facebook page, Leroy is saying, so this year we've had very dense fog day by day. Surprised it developed so dense with the lack of rain for almost a month. Is it because of the well-saturated ground, a lot of wild green vegetation? You think the air would have dried out by now? Although perfect atmospheric conditions as it clears by the afternoon. Yeah, Leroy, you bring up an interesting point. It hasn't rained a lot in a while, but if you drive around the valley, he points out the vegetation. There's lots of greenery. That greenery has its own moisture. It releases some of it through what we call evapotranspiration. There's just water sitting in some of the bypasses. Not a lot, but enough. So there is enough moisture in the ground, and there's just enough moisture at the lowest levels of the atmosphere. And this time of the year it gets cold enough that, okay, there's less water vapor than what there would be, say, in the fall or getting into the spring. But that means that as the air cools off faster, we can reach higher relative humidities a little bit more easily, so we see the fog form. But because the sun angle is getting higher, because we are getting later in the season, because we are further away from significant rain, as Leroy pointed out, the fog doesn't last all that long. Our months where we can really be socked in are December and January, the months with the shortest days of the year. Kind of makes sense. The sun's not as powerful. We can still get stuck in February too, but we're just not in one of those patterns right now. So, Leroy, thank you for your observations and your questions. But yes, it is nice to see all that moisture in the ground in the valley. Nice and green. I've been looking at some of the cameras. Some of the coastal hills, really nice and rolling green. It's beautiful. Let's see. Joxer Lee 1 on YouTube. What date is considered the official end of the rain season for the Sacramento area? The official calendar date for the end of the water year goes from October 1st through September 30th. So September 30th is technically the end of the water year. At least that's what the folks at DWR and the National Weather Service use. there's no real set date for when, the tap turns off in Sacramento. On average, we get our best rain in December, January, February. March can be a wet month. It can also be a dry month. It's not at all unusual to get some, quarter-inch here of rain in May. But the water that we really count on and that water managers look to when making their calculations, we're in it now. It's December, January, February, and March can be kind of a flip of the coin. But we can certainly have a big March, and then April is when things kind of start to tail off. So April is where we kind of turn the corner, but that's not to say we can't get rain, and it's not to say that rain in April or May is unusual. I hope that's helpful. Showers in June make it not uncalled for either, but that's not what we typically think of as our wetter season. Yeah, Matthew said, I think the end of February is when the rainy season ends in Sacramento. Hopefully not. March can be a very good month. But March is starting to get into that time period where, you've got one March that's up here, one March that's down here, and very few in the middle. Justin Randall says, missed you doing these weather chats. He was also sick around the holidays. Yeah, it's not fun. Just seems to be what happens when we gather with large groups of people. All right, this has been a fun discussion. Hope you've gleaned something useful out of it. Next couple of days in the valley, we're going to see some fog in the morning, but it's going to be really nice in the afternoons. Great couple of days to be outside. Keep an eye on the air quality. We're going to keep you updated. I'll update you on social media and on TV if air quality gets into a range that is concerning, but for right now we're in an okay spot. Shower chances next Monday, mainly for the mountains. I think the valley stays dry. It's next Wednesday onward, especially once we get past Valentine's Day. That could be a little bit more interesting. There's some big asterisks on that could, because things can change, but it's been encouraging that for the past week or so, forecast models have been showing the pattern flipping a little bit and at least bringing us a little something over the next couple of weeks. But we'll all find out how it goes together. All right, I got to get ready for our 10 o'clock newscast on my 58. Going to prep some things for the Olympics. By the way, planning to do another one of these chats on Thursday evening. We're going to look a little bit at some of the climatology for the Olympics. They're in northern Italy this year, Milan and Cortina. I've been doing some early poking around, and it's actually kind of similar to California. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And we'll look ahead to the forecast then. So I'll see you Thursday. Hopefully see you on TV. Remember to follow my pages, and you'll get updates when I do these lives. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, most of those other ones too. All right, have a good rest of your night. We'll talk soon.